I'm here to talk about Popeye the Slayer Man with the director Robert Michael Ryan and Popeye himself. I've never met a live action Popeye before. Jason Robert Stevens, although I know it's not the Popeye I grew up with. But so thanks, guys, for joining me. And so I want to ask. I'll start with Robert. You've got at least a decade working in horror films in a lot of different roles. So how long have you planned on doing Popeye? Or and why is the other question.
Sure. Well, it's funny you mentioned the decade in horror because Jason and we've known each other since the fourth grade, and we've been doing little horror films since we were kids. So this is just a continuation of a lifelong interest of ours. But as far as specifically Popeye, that came about, I think, late summer of 2023. Myself, Kyle Carvin, and Jeff Miller, we were kind of sitting around hanging out and saying, okay, what's our next movie that we want to do together? And we were talking about these IP films and stuff, and we looked it up and saw that Popeye was available, or that Popeye was going to be public domain in 2025. And we thought, oh, it's like, about almost a year and a half from now. That gives us plenty of time to get this going. And we just started that night. We just started working on some story ideas, and it just kind of snowballed from there.
So, I do have to ask, because you mentioned the other public domain horror films. This seems to be the path. They go into public domain, immediately there's a slasher film. And, and as I have made myself watch all of them, I got to ask, why do Popeye as a slasher film when you could do something else with it? I mean, you could do anything with him now.
Well, the interesting thing about our movie is it comes across on the surface as a slasher film, but we actually, one of the things we didn't want to do was just have a typical kind of low budget slasher exploitative film. We want to do something that had a really good story. And so we think we found a couple of really interesting elements and backstory to our Popeye that is going to set it apart. And as you watch the film, you'll see that there's some deeper layers to Popeye. He's not just this kind of killing machine who has no purpose. And I think that's what's going to help set our film apart from some of these other kind of generic, I wouldn't say generic IP slasher films.
Yeah, I will get to you, Jason, I promise, because I got Popeye questions. But I believe you'd have everybody. I'm going to get deep. You're talking to a guy who runs Fanboy Planet, so I know. Most of those characters from Thimble Theater, that's really what went into public domain, are right there. And the press release doesn't make it clear. But when I say I'm going to talk, when I've told friends, I'm talking to the guys that made Popeye the Slayer Man. First question is there no olive oil? There's a character named Olivia in the press release, but is that Olive?
No, that's not Olive. There is references to olive oil, and that's part of the backstory that we have for our Popeye. And that's a little kind of open-ended, but that's definitely because we do see our Popeye the Slayer Man as as being a couple of films. And so we wanted to have kind of lay some groundwork for some ideas for the next film, the part 2 and the part 3 kind of a thing. So there is some of the Thimble Theater characters are going to be in this.
Okay, cool. Because like I said, people ask me. It's the hell of my own making. I fully admit that. So, Jason, how about you? Robert's been working on Popeye the Slayer Man for a year and a half or so. Was Popeye a formative character from your youth? Have you always wanted to be him?
It was kind of a shocker when Robert asked me to be Popeye. I mean, he called me up and said, "Hey, there's a Popeye's entering public domain. We want to make a horror movie about it." And I'm like, "Well," and he goes, "Now I pictured you as Popeye," and I said, "Okay." I'm like, "That's cool." And I'm like, but I go, but it better be over the top. If I do this, I want it to be over the top. And he's like, "Oh no, it's definitely going to be over the top. It's a gallon of blood for every kill." And I'm like, "All right, I'm in." So, and I love making horror movies. It's just fun. So, as far as Popeye being like in my childhood, yes, I watched Popeye and I read the cartoons in the paper and all that kind of stuff. So I grew up with Popeye. I love the Robin Williams version of Popeye. I mean, it was a fun.
Oh, me too. It's great.
So, and ours is obviously nothing like that, but it's fun. It's a fun movie. So, and it's like I said, it's a little over the top, but there's a story, and I appreciate the story. it's not just a guy wearing a mask going around killing people. So like Robert said, they did some work on the story.
And is it mask? Is it a mask? It looked to me from the trailer, it's prosthetics, or
it's prosthetics. Yeah, it's there's multiple pieces involved in the whole costume. So and certain scenes we have to kind of cheat because some of the prosthetic elements are very difficult to maintain. So
I'm sure.
Yeah, so it's mostly silicone prosthetics that we use for everything.
And what was your preparation like, Jason? You know, you said you watched it as a kid. You read the comic strip, the newspaper strip, which I forgot that existed. You know, by the time we were kids, because I think we're probably closer in age. But you know, when Robert told you are going to play Popeye, did you go back and watch these? Did you try to get the voice, or which voice?
You know what? Because it's contaminated spinach and it's horror. I kind of came to Robert and I said, "Hey, this is the voice I'm working on here, and what do you think about it?" And so, and he's like, "Yeah," and you know, and then obviously talking through all that stuff, it's like we had to do some ADR and all that kind of stuff on a couple scenes. I don't have a lot of lines in the movie. I'm more like a Michael Myers, you know, it's like a Halloween guy. So I don't have a lot of lines, and I don't do the laugh. I don't do any of that. I think my Popeye struggles with speech. He's been eating this contaminated spinach for 25 years, and it's just kind of made him this, you know, kind of grotesque, you know, version of Popeye. And you know, obviously, I have the crazy strength, and then I also have, you know, I lost my mind a little bit too. So.
As any good slasher would have. Yeah. So, and you both, you know, we've danced around. You've known each other practically forever, since, did you say fourth grade?
Fourth grade,
you know, and you've been making horror. I mean, I went onto IMDb for both of you, and I saw, okay, you know, there's this clump of working together, and then you're both doing other things, and then you're working back together. So what draws you back together as creative collaborators?
We have similar tastes in horror movies. You know, we like the same thing, and you know, and this is, you know, it's when myself, Kyle, and Jeff were first talking about doing a Popeye film. The first person who popped in my head, and I think I said it at the table. I was like, "Oh, Jason's got to play Popeye because there's no one else who can do this." And so, and they were just like, "Yeah, that'd be great." You know, is he available? And it's like, "Well, we'll talk. We'll figure it out." You know. So yeah, we just, when things come up, and Jason's done, you know, he's directed and he's put together movies, produced movies, and I've helped him on his movies and vice versa with ours. Like just a couple years ago, I directed another film called Ouija Witch that we shot out in New York as well, and Jason came out and helped on the production with that. So you know, we're friends, we help each other out, and you know, we're just trying to motivate each other to keep doing more movies.
Basically, we have fun together. You know, it's a you know, we're good friends. So it's like, it's good friends that go throw buckets of blood on girls. It's kind of fun. So.
Well, so you know what you know, what keeps horror alive for you, and what makes you just love it so much?
I think for me, I you know, I grew up on horror films of the 80s, and I just always loved that kind of that style of the Freddy Kruegers and Nightmare on Elm Street and the Jason Voorhees. I mean, some of it's like just really hard to watch horror, but it's also got this element of camp and kind of over the top where you're trying to up every kill that you have, and there's something kind of fun and just crazy about that. So I've always liked that element, and then that's what we try to do with this film as well. So yeah, I think it's just and I will say, like, for when you're working with a very low budget, horror film is much more forgiving because you can do, like, we did a lot of practical effects, which is actually harder to do, more expensive. It took a lot more time for our movie, but it's still it's much better to have that on the screen and see it, and compared to like a rom-com where you're really relying on, you know, like the romance or the comedy, and some of that doesn't translate very well to like foreign buyers and stuff. So when you're thinking of horror film, it's a worldwide. Everybody around the world loves a good horror film.
Killing is universal. Okay, yeah. So, Jason, how about for you? And
same thing. It's like, basically, I love the process of making movies, and obviously we started off doing horrors when we were kids, basically with a little VHS camera running around when we were 14 years old, making we did Saturday Night Live style sketch comedy, and we did horror movies. That's what we did. That was our bag. And then we basically learned about a bunch of different tricks about doing it. Old school ways, practical effects. I mean, I remember putting little lady fingers under my clothes and blowing squibs and stuff like that for gunshots. And I mean, this is when we're teenagers and and no pyrotechnic license is required. We just did it. So it's just a fun process.
Okay. I mean, the statute of limitations had to have run out.
I'm not worried about it.
Lady finger squibs. That's one I've never heard. So that's cool.
Yeah.
And I always ask when I have horror filmmakers on, is in your opinion, what's a great horror film that you love that you don't think too many people have heard of?
Oh, man.
I haven't heard of. That's the hard part. That's hard to say. I mean, this is completely unrelated, but the first thing I thought of when I had not a lot of people have heard of is there's a film called The Vanishing. That's a foreign film, and geez, I'm going to blow it by giving the wrong country, but it's a European film, and it's just a great story that has this great twist at the end and everything that I really liked. So I'd recommend that if anybody wants to take a look. It's not your typical slasher horror film. It's much more of a psychological horror.
Yeah, I want to say that's Dutch. I think it was remade with Jeff Bridges, and I can't remember who else.
Anytime they remake something like that, I refuse to even acknowledge it. So if the original is so good, it's so well
then I
done.
don't know what I'm talking about. That's fine. Yeah.
Right.
Knowledge. Well, so Jason, what's a film you love that maybe not so many people?
I can't think of the name of it. It's a John Carpenter movie where and Alice Cooper's in it as a guest, the homeless guy.
Prince of Darkness.
Prince of Darkness.
Oh yeah,
I love the horror element with the religious aspect to it. It's just that's to me is like this.
Is that the one where what's his name is saying "Pray for Death"? The musician who plays the homeless
Alice
guy.
Cooper,
Alice Cooper, and he's like "Pray for Death,"
Yes.
and everybody's looking out the window. Yeah, that's a great movie.
Yeah,
there we go. I just got that on Blu-ray, so
nice.
Because I haven't seen it since college, so we're looking.
And I know a lot of people didn't watch that one as a John Carpenter movie because it was kind of an oddball one, but I think that has some really great horror elements to it. So
yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's
So thank you both for joining Popeye the Slayer Man. I should have written down the release date because I think
It's going to be March 21st on theaters and on VOD.
Okay, great. March 21st, theaters and VOD. Popeye the Slayer Man. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Jason. And I wish you all the best with this film.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Appreciate you having us on. Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Please be sure to creepily caress the subscribe button to be sure you don't miss out on any ghoulish gifts from the fanboy planet Crypt. And who knows? I may one day find my way back out of the catacombs and into dim light again.